right now, it's time for future award-winning Shouty shows.
I've thought about it very deeply.
I liked how he started it with, I've thought about this long and hard.
I trust the backup quarterback more than I do Dak.
This is why Skip Bayless is the master of the Shouty Show segment.
I can't do it anymore. It is year 6.
It's just a never-ending arms race of idiocy between loud, obnoxious people. We are the antidote to that.
All right, I'm excited for Shouty shows this week. We've got 5, looks like, total. We've got 5. Let's start with a proposed trade for the Jets.
It is time for the Jets to acquire Shadur Sanders from the Cleveland Browns. And someone tell me why that's a bad idea. And I don't want to hear about it's a circus. It's a circus? What's this? What the hell is this that we're watching? Circus. That's a circus. Bad, crappy football is a circus. The Jets should have drafted this guy, I don't know, second, third, fourth. They got a million opportunities to draft him. He has not gotten an opportunity in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. I don't really care about the Cleveland Browns, so I'm not going to fight their battles. I'll let Josina Anderson take care of that. All I'm saying is I see a talent, a guy I think we all talked about him as a guy that could at least be a serviceable starting quarterback in the NFL. They are not giving him a chance in Cleveland. If I'm Darren Muji, I call up my my contemporaries in Cleveland, and I say, here's a 5th-round pick back. Here's your 5th back. Let's get Shadur in here, and let's see what the kid has got, because why not?
If he comes to the Jets, amidst all of this and all the issues that are going on already, and he's just the brash guy that he was, how does that make it any better?
What if he's good?
It doesn't matter if he's good.
It doesn't matter if he's good?
Well,
you can't believe that, Zeke. Of course it matters if he's good.
The only thing that will matter is if he wins.
Well,
it works if he wins.
Okay, hand in hand. What if he's good and a game like yesterday that they would have won with competent quarterback play, they win?
No, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying it's very risky.
Here's what I disagree about with the risk. They're on a watchable mess right now with a lottery ticket that isn't working.
I laughed initially because the premise isn't actually the worst. Like, you've got the premise that we would, like, from a team building perspective, take shots on quarterbacks and this and that. But
yeah, the premise, it's fairly laughable. The premise that you should try and find some answer at quarterback is fine. The premise that you should take a swing at, you try and trade for Shadur Sanders based off basically no evidence that he's any different than he was at draft time is pretty crazy. Like, we've got one half of a preseason game. Like, this is based off basically a preseason performance against second stringers largely. And it's like, well, obviously he's totally different than the 5th rounder that he was a couple months ago. So let's give them their 5th back to you. Like, why not make the same argument for let's call up Pittsburgh and see if they'll take a 6th for Will Howard and put him in the starting lineup. Like, that's basically the same take. This is the only way this makes any sense whatsoever is I personally believe that Shadur Sanders was worth a 1st or a 2nd round draft pick, and I saw some signs in preseason. Therefore, everybody else was wrong at draft time, and we should make this move.
Which we did believe he was going to go in the 1st. He didn't.
Which is fine. But the premise of this relies on the Jets also believing that they were wrong a couple of months ago because they didn't take him in the draft.
I guess the other part of it, I don't know, man. You've got Mike Tomlin questioning why the Cleveland Browns traded Joe Flacco to a division rival, and I'm like,
that was pretty unusual in terms of shade thrown somewhere else
at Andrew Berry.
Yeah,
and it just maybe it's because I'm not in the building, I'm not in the seat, I don't understand. We'll talk about Brian Callahan in a minute here. Like, the expectations for the Titans were bad, right? I like to think a year ahead, but like when you're there and you're watching it, like you're forced to watch your team lose, you're watching the Jets lose badly. It doesn't feel great, but fans tend to think about instant fixes. And Mike Tomlin suggesting, why would you give a division rival a quarterback? Because he's not going to start for us, and we get to move from this. We're going to move up about 50 spots in the draft. That's better for the Browns.
And he's not good.
Yeah,
like we had no fear of trading away Joe Flacco
because we signed him for nothing, and then we improved in the draft. That's a smart move by the Browns.
He's also like, why would you trade away a guy that you thought at the start of the season was good enough to lead your franchise? Like, yeah, but they didn't. They didn't go into this season thinking Joe Flacco. Like, at no point did they think that Joe Flacco would be starting the Week 17 game for this team.
Yeah, it's all where
he was a placeholder.
And so my point on this is, like, you can't be like, just Justin Fields just had 9 completions and 9 sacks. Fix it now. It's week 6 in the middle of a rebuild for the Jets.
In the chat, Just a Football Guy says Tanner McKee time. Now, that's a far more sensible idea. It would cost you more. The Eagles are not giving him up for a 5th-round pick, I wouldn't have thought.
I think the shouty shows are going to start calling
But, like,
for Tanner McKee.
That's a logical thing that I would have time for. The idea that Shadur Sanders,
just
because he's a popular name that you know, is a fix is insane. And the Shadur Sanders circus, I think, in the Jets, if he's not amazing immediately, would be...
There is something too.
Ridiculous.
It's not anything against Shadur that like it's a circus or this or that, but like the fact that they're already calling for Aaron Glenn's job, I don't know if that would happen if he was the coach in Jacksonville or
no, it wouldn't.
Tennessee
Of course it
or
wouldn't.
wherever else.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like the media market stuff makes an impact, even if A, it shouldn't, and B, it's not that guy's fault. So the Shadur Sanders thing, you have to bring up the circus that comes along with him, even if you want to acknowledge that it's not his fault, right? The stuff that happened with when Rex Ryan is like ripping him for just existing, right? And then Shadur tries to riff on that by doing the mime thing. And then people are like, oh, look at this immature joke of a guy. What's he doing? That whole circus doesn't happen for any other backup quarterback in the NFL. It just doesn't exist. So you have to bring it up as a factor because the Browns have to deal with that bullshit. Shadur has to deal with that crap, right? It's a thing that exists that doesn't exist for other guys. And whether or not it's his fault is basically immaterial.
We've got another proposed trade candidate for the Jets. Hey, guys, real quick. Only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the action.
Dying there. He's being wasted talent. Garrett Wilson's career is like dying there. He's being wasted talent-wise. I've defended Justin a lot, and I don't think yesterday's performance is totally on Justin, but Garrett's open. Like Garrett's open on tape yesterday, and we like. My thing is this with dude, if it's man coverage, just throw the ball to him. I don't care what the route says. I don't care what the read says. If it's man coverage, throw him the ball. And we're like the final play of the game, throw him the ball. And so, the Jets got a really difficult situation right now because it's not going well offensively. Here's the thing also. They paid the perimeter before they paid the front.
Yep.
Really. Like they paid Sauce and they paid Garrett. They're two really, really, really good players. I don't necessarily know if that's the best way to go about rebuild. I think they have to entertain trading everybody of value. Absolutely, because you're 0-7 or 0-6 and it doesn't look promising. Just don't know, Pat, when the player says it. Like if you're Garrett Wilson, you've done 5 or 6 years of this now.
Just signed a new deal.
He's paid now.
Just signed a new deal. Just signed a new deal.
I think that last point is the most salient point here, which is, I mean, look, if I'm the Jets, I'm not actually that interested in trading away a bunch of assets because I think most of the assets they've got that are of value, they've signed, they're young. The core is there for that team to be good pretty quickly if they can get things sorted in coach and quarterback. But the last point of Garrett Wilson's been going through this for a while now. How close to the brink is he in terms of saying, in terms of saying, you know what, I'm done with this. I want to trade. Because if you pass up the opportunity to trade him and then he forces your hand, now that's a bad situation.
Yeah, the first point, and we are really picking this apart, but the first point about, you're wasting his talent. Like nobody's sitting in there in the front office being like, man, we're really just wasting Garrett Wilson. Got to get rid of him. It's more like, well, we need to get a quarterback. We need to have our situation better, and then he's their only pass catcher. When the Jets, let's say the Jets draft a quarterback in the first round next year, then the next thing that we always do is say, what's the offensive line look like? Well, they've got 2 first-round tackles the last couple of years.
That's the thing. I don't agree with that take either. Yeah, they paid the perimeter in terms of Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, but they have 2 first-round picks in offensive tackles. They've got more invested in the interior. It's not like they ignored the trenches to pay those things. They've just invested that in a different way.
Yeah. But you're going to sit here a year from now and say, the new quarterback needs a Garrett Wilson. And oh, by the way, we probably need 2 more pass catchers, right? We probably need 2 more good receivers to put with Garrett Wilson and a Mason Taylor at tight end before we feel good about this. You don't want to get rid of one and then have 3 pass catchers that you need a year from now when you have the new quarterback in. Again, guilty that I thought that the Jets would be more competitive this year, but we use the phrase range of outcomes a lot on this show. If you told me they were going to be 0-6 with a terrible passing attack this year, I would have said, yeah, of course. That's very possible. Justin Fields has never been a great passer. what I thought would make them more competitive was the run game, a dedication to it, some game flow stuff, and maybe defensively the fact that they were going to be more volatile there, man coverage heavy, but their defensive front hasn't been great. Sauce hasn't been great. The whole defense hasn't been as good as I thought it could be. And then you just have like the procedural stuff, and they're just not playing well. So it's like we shouldn't be surprised that they're not playing well, and then say blow it all up.
Yeah, I mean there are times where I think there are times where I think it does make sense to blow it all up and reset and blah blah blah. I don't think the Jets is one. Like obviously it hasn't worked the way people thought it would, but I think the pieces you would be talking about trading away are pieces you want to have in future. And the only reason to trade them away is if they're going to force your hand and say, I am tired of this crap, get me out of here.
There is something to that. And if that is the case, you want to get multiple high draft picks and say, okay, we're getting real young these next few years and hopefully replace a guy like Garrett Wilson. But right now, the Jets need him.
Next.
Oh, boy. Next one, Sam, is a hot take on our former employer.
Okay.
Get Mahomes quarterback 13 of 32 off my television screen. We're talking about legislation, what our kids shouldn't see at school, what they shouldn't be learning about. Like, should we have political ads on television? I want the PFF scores off the TV as bad as I want political ads off the television because, like, God forbid there's somebody watching the game who doesn't know who fucking Patrick Mahomes is.
Right.
They're going to be badly misguided, brother. 13th best quarterback in the league? I mean, if I was not Nandi, and maybe he earned it this year, but I would sue. I'd be in Chris Collinsworth's backyard, dude. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'd be at the window. You can't do that, dude.
That's Chris Long talking about the PFF grades appearing on Sunday Night Football. So we had this conversation off air last night, this morning, whenever the hell it was, talking about this exact thing. So I kind of agree with a lot of what he's saying. I think that was a huge win for PFF, getting their information out there on the biggest TV show in the world, in the country on a weekly basis. I do, however, think it was a rare L for Fred Gaudelli, the former producer of Sunday Night Football. I don't think it ever added much, and it never actually had the impact that PFF thought it might either, like driving huge amounts of traffic to the site and people signing up. It's kind of a contextless. It's the worst of PFF, right? It's like one number, a ranking that has no context attached to it, just thrown in your face as if you either don't take anything from it or the one thing you take from it is this is the 129th best player in the NFL or the 13th best player in the NFL, which is not what it's supposed to be showing you. So I don't think it's a good thing to have up there. From that perspective, I think Chris Long's right, actually. I would take it off the broadcast. Where I think he's wrong is that it doesn't really matter if Mahomes is the 13th best player in the NFL or in 13th best quarterback. The grades are not supposed to be telling you that. They're supposed to be telling you that through 6 games or whatever, he's been 13th performance-wise. And you can debate whether that's true or not, but it's a different thing.
I agree with you on the point. I think it was probably better for us at PFF at the time. It was a big thing. Probably better for PFF than it was for Sunday Night Football.
If it did anything, if it did anything, it was a brand awareness play.
I would almost, maybe in hindsight, only highlight the positives, and we've gone through that. Look, I think I can understand the angst from players.
Sure,
right?
And even then, I mean, Fred was aware of this. Like he was very keen to make sure that certainly earlier in the season. There was a way of like not saying, a guy had a bad week 1, therefore he's the 129th best player in the NFL. Like he was aware of that risk, but I just don't think it's been a useful thing.
Now, the actual ranking, just to discuss the actual ranking, this was heading into week 6, so we had 5 weeks of games.
Yeah.
And we dealt with this years ago, and it's like you spend a lot of time trying to explain to people context. And that's your point, right? The broadcast doesn't have time to show context. There was Fred would always make a point. He would say, well, we're not going to show rankings after 2 weeks. We got to wait till week 3 or week 4. Right. One of the years, week 3 or 4, Richard Sherman had given up some catches in the first 2 or 3 weeks, and he was ranked like 110th at corner through 2 weeks, which is already a volatile position. Mm-hmm. And through 2 or 3 weeks of games, that much more.
Yeah.
And the initial reaction, are you telling me there's 107 corners you would take over Richard Sherman? Like,
no.
Nope.
Right.
No one would. Are you telling me there's 12 quarterbacks that you would take over Patrick Mahomes?
No.
Or even if you said, are you telling me that there's 12 quarterbacks who have played better than Patrick Mahomes? You'd say, no, I mean, maybe it's close.
Right.
But so the argument that I would make, though, for the 13 through 5 weeks, if you look at any Mahomes metric, yards per attempt, passer rating, total EPA per play, he was somewhere between 8th and 15th in every metric except, I think, QBR. QBR has really liked him, ESPN's metric. So if you put all of Mahomes' stats up on the broadcast, completion percentage, yards per attempt, passer rating, EPA, so advanced, traditional, whatever, they would all say 8th to 15th through 5 weeks of this season, other than scramble yards, 1. So do you throw all of those? It's a stat through 5 weeks, or it's a ranking through 5 weeks. And he was 8th to 15th in almost all of them. Like almost every metric you pulled out except ESPN's QBR has him in that range, as does PFF. Now, that's like, are you telling me that he's the 22nd best quarterback at yards per attempt? No, that's just what he's done through 5 weeks, which is 29.4% of the season. So.
Yeah. My problem with it is I'm not sure, like if you told me, okay, we've got this little piece of the screen for every player reserved for you, what do you want to put there? I'm not sure what you would put there for it, because it's.
I wonder if I would only just highlight top 10s instead of because the Derek Nottie thing he was saying, he was
that's
129 of 129 or something.
Yeah.
In hindsight, and now with foresight, I might say,
so just like
if a guy's top 10, like a star, hey,
like
top 10 guard,
like the way the Ringer does their thing with like a sticker, like a sticker for a certain thing.
See, that might be a better one, right? If you actually want to bring the context of PFF to the broadcast, this says Joe Tooney, number 1 pass blocking guard, or so and so, number 3 run blocking tackle.
That's it.
And you start to use so that's free advice, Chris. And
let's get in a room with Fred 15 years ago and let's fix this.
It's not too late. They can still fix it. That would be the best use.
Yeah.
And then positively show the players, and not disingenuously. You don't have to put Derek Nottie's ranking right or wrong. And I get look, I had that fear before. Like when players talk about their contracts and their livelihood and everything. If you have new ways of measuring their performance that never existed before, whether it's right or wrong, it affects them. And
of course
they could get
I
upset about that.
I have a lot of sympathy for the idea that even if it's just been, even if it's 100% accurate, the idea of throwing up a graphic for a dude who's appearing on Sunday Night Football, that's a big deal for him. And the graphics you are the worst player in the NFL at your position. Even if it's true, that's pretty harsh. I agree with that. I think I have sympathy with that idea that's just not something you should be throwing up on a broadcast.
In addition to, as the chat brings up, that the number has nothing to do with Mahomes' career. The fact that he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks of all time, that he's already a Hall of Famer, has nothing to do with that. It's just through 5 weeks. Nobody does this in any other sport. Nobody looks like a hitter's hit. I use it all. A hitter's hitting 240 in the month of April. You telling me he's a 240 hitter? It's like, no, he hit 240 in April.
Right.
He'll probably hit 320 by the end of the year because that's what he does. So,
no, it's perfect. We fixed it.
That's
we
PFF badges.
PFF badges,
is what I would add to Sunday Night Football.
Clear and obvious.
Rob Highland. This is free advice to Rob, who's the new producer on Sunday Night Football. That's my suggestion.
Yeah.
And by the way, Chris Long's point is a fair one, right? It is a fair point.
Yeah, we agree with it largely. Yeah. That's the thing. It's stickers, badges, clear and obvious, top 5 guys in certain categories or top 10 guys or whatever it is. Make it really easy, at a glance, visual.
Even better.
Number 1.
Check the mic badges. I'll supply the badges for Check the Mic for Sunday Night Football.
Number 1, it's far fairer. Number 2, it's way more actually insightful. You learn more from that rather than just a contextless piece of information that's probably misleading. It's way better. We fixed it. See, here we are, years removed from being employed by them. We're still making their business better.
Still helping PFF here. We got a reaction to ESPN's power rankings. This should be good.
The latest ESPN NFL Nation power rankings. Our panel of more than 80 writers, editors, and TV personalities evaluated how NFL teams stack up against one another, ranking them from 1 to 32. Late breaking, 80-person sample. Watched the NFL this weekend. Saw what the Kansas City Chiefs did to Detroit. They had them at 7 going into last week. and dropped them to 9. They watched football this weekend and said the Chiefs are going into the Lions game. We thought they were the 7th best team in football. We've now seen it. They're 9th. Detroit is 2. Buffalo, whose wins have come against teams that are combined 3-21, is 3. I don't want to overstate it when I say this is the single worst power ranking in the history of sports media. I've never seen anything like it.
That's not what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be from the week before when the Chiefs were 2-3.
I saw this tweet. I hadn't watched the video, though. I had specifically avoided the video thinking that it might show up here, but I had seen the tweet, the caption of this, essentially.
Yeah.
I think right up until the last point, he's 100% accurate. I think it is kind of absurd to rank the Chiefs any lower than, top 3 or 4.
Well, for them to go
now.
down. So I thought it was going to be
and for them to go down is absolutely ridiculous.
I hate power rankings.
Particularly because the 2 of the teams ahead of them, 3 of the teams ahead of them would have lost. And lost in the second week in a row in a small sample size, which would make you go, oh, no. And yet they somehow still went down.
Now, let's just be clear here. We're just talking about power rankings, which are fun and for content. Like this isn't life or death that we're talking about.
And where I disagree with him is I think there have been countless worse examples of power rankings in the past.
Yeah. So first off, I thought that this was I saw somewhere in power rankings where they were 17th, or I glanced at one last week and I just skimmed the top 15 and didn't see the Chiefs. It was well, this one's bad.
Right.
Because, they're 2-3. So my least favorite power ranking is the one that is the record, strictly record.
Right.
That is strictly record.
I remember a few years ago where the Steelers
Besides
were
Dave
11-1 or whatever, and everybody in the world was like, "This is fraudulent. They're about to fall off a cliff."
Because it mirrors the college AP poll, which always had to be wins and losses generated. You just got to win your games.
Yeah,
and you're the top. So that is the worst when somebody just straight up puts the records. Because whoever had the Chiefs at 17 last week now probably has them at 4. Because of what just happened. You're telling me in one game, 16% of the games have been played, and that's what moved them from 17 to 4 in the last week? I didn't realize that they went down.
Yeah, that's crazy.
After a pretty dominant performance against the Lions. So that is crazy. I have a hot take for you, Sam. I don't care about any rankings that are not using some level of subjective of objective numbers now. So we have power rankings that people put out there. Mm-hmm. We have QB rankings that people put out there that are just eye test QB rankings, and they change weekly. We've been asked about a bunch of those. We've done them at 33rd Team before, and they've been non-automated, say. I'm just not interested in one person's or individuals' opinions that change weekly with the flow of the season. I have no interest in that. It's inherently biased. It's inherently the last thing. So the AP poll in college is under a lot of heat because the same thing happened Florida, whatever it was a few weeks ago. Florida was still ranked after losing to 2 terrible teams, whatever it was. And they were you lose your AP poll, your AP vote. What are you doing? This is terrible. Because the AP voters in college are asked to rank a top 25 when they're watching one game per week covering a team, and then they have to go read the scores and then rank the teams and remember what they did the week before. And it's all subjective and in your brain and recency bias, and I don't care. What I find interesting is if you're ranking off of something objective, PFF grades, EPA, your own models, or what. It's at least interesting because there's a formula there, and you could still pick it apart. It could still be bad, but it's informative as in, hey, the Chiefs just fell to 2-3, but here's all this data that says they should still be a top 5 team. And I think that's more interesting than saying, oh, they're 17th one week. Oh, now they're 3rd again because they won a game. In just going with the ebbs and flows of the fields. That's what I think.
I mean, I'm just not really interested in rankings, period.
Oh, you're just done with all of it.
Well, I don't think the objective ones are no more or less serious than the subjective ones. They're just done. anybody using just here's an objective set of data that says this ranking. I mean, that's interesting just because you get to see things like, the Chiefs are ranked low, but actually they're high in this thing. That's a data point that's worth knowing. But that's the interesting thing, not the fact that this specific data point ranks them higher than the Lions or whatever. Like the ranking is irrelevant. The fact that the ranking can give you insights about what the NFL is doing right now is the interesting thing.
That's what
I
I'm
think
saying.
all these rankings are silly. Just trying to rank anybody, anything next to each other. It's a thing that everyone loves to read or look and engage in, but it's a kind of pointless and silly exercise. I'm more interested in just the overall analysis of the thing.
Well, but re-ranking quarterbacks every week based off what you just saw too. I don't know. I just don't care. Just not into it. All right, we got one more, I guess. In the chat says we're getting Shouty Show with the takes. I don't know if that's me or the chat, but I'll get Shouty Show for if you give me 30 seconds here. Because I can only remember the last few days. I could barely remember Thursday, but one thing I do remember is the New York Giants won on Thursday. That was this week. That was all part of week 6. You know who didn't win this week? The Eagles, the Cowboys, or the Commanders. Are the Giants the best team in the NFC East, Sam?
No.
Okay. Oh, man. We could have gotten really Shouty Show. We could have brought this to the show on Wednesday and responded to it if you really went in on that. Poor take by me. Should have presented it with more confidence.
You posed a question. That doesn't work.
That's not going to work.
No.
I'm never going to be on any of those shows.
You think at the start Greeny was asking the question if they should trade for Shadur Sanders? No, he was out here telling you they should do it.
Can I have a web redemption on this? I could maybe present it in better form.
I mean, no, you just got to do better.
I've watched all the games this weekend. The only NFC East team to win was the Giants. They beat the Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions. The Cowboys can't stop anybody. The Commanders blew it on prime time. The Giants have Jackson Dart. Brian Daboll has his long-lost son. Cam Scattaboo is just running through everybody. The Giants are 2-4. However, they're the best team in the NFC East.
Yeah, there you go. That would have been it, but you didn't do that.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
My web redemption. Is that shouty enough? Is anybody dusting off that take coming out of the weekend?
That the Giants are actually the best team? I don't think so.
I mean, they're 2-1 in their last 3. What are the Eagles, 0-2?
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
In their last 2.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
And the all-knowing algorithm is convinced you'll also like these videos, and who are we to argue?